I want you guys to, if you were around for it, remember what it was like to be a viewer of conservative YouTube. Not even conservative necessarily, but like that alt reactionary grift tube type shit where it's complaining about anything woke in video games. Take that community, but travel back in time to like 2016. Do you remember what the entire argument from them was? The entire like discourse and what it was surrounded by, because I distinctly remember situations like, well, here's an example, a direct example, a direct example. One of my favorite content creators who made content like this back when I was kind of a shitlord reactionary was someone by the name of Rags. Now, I don't fully agree by any means with Rags' political beliefs, though I do still respect a lot of his like content about PC hardware and like the PC master race versus consoles or whatever. Do respect a lot of that content, but his political opinions are pretty dog shit. Pun intended, by the way, because his avatar is a dog. He's a furry. But he did a video responding to, it was maybe like Vice or Wisecrack, just some liberal media outlet that had done a segment, maybe it was BuzzFeed, criticizing The Witcher 3. Everybody knows The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt, very famous game, one of the best games ever made, fantastic in basically every category except for having realistic fall damage. I swear to God, Geralt's kneecaps must be made of fucking cotton. I don't know. The mutations must have made his kneecaps weaker, because I'm pretty sure normal humans can withstand falls higher than what Geralt can survive, okay? It's actually insane. Okay, I'm not stun locking on that though. Anyway, he was responding to some like BuzzFeed segment criticizing The Witcher 3 for not having enough characters of color. The Witcher 3, of course, has a lot of white characters, not really very ethnically diverse in the cast there. And the arguments they would make were never like, well, that's a good thing if all the characters are white, because white people are superior and we don't like brown. They never made that argument. The argument they would always make, I guess, to defend these games against these vicious liberal critics, was that, oh, but having people of color in the game would be unrealistic. And if you want to make a game like that, where you sacrifice realism for a woke agenda of some kind, or, some woke messaging, make your own games. And that's what they would say for a very long time. By the way, the unrealistic complaint in a game like that, all right, in basically any game, like The Witcher is literally a game where you play as a mutated monster hunter who manages to trot around the medieval Poland, having sex with numerous women, and doesn't get any medieval STDs because of magic. Which is a thing, by the way. That is actually an explanation in the lore, that Geralt can do what he does because he can't get any diseases. He can't get sick. Very, very much, they're very concerned about the realism and how it would break the immersion if there was some characters who weren't white in there, It would really, really break down their focus on the setting. Fast forward to modern day. What does this same community that once said and repeated the same mantra of, if you want to make games political and woke, make your own games. Where are they now? Well, now, games want to be taken a little bit more seriously. I think it's safe to say that for a very long time, mainstream media and general society didn't really take video games as a medium very seriously, especially as far as a way of telling stories. Storytelling in video games was never looked at very positively, and I feel like if you want to look at the absolute peak of the infernal rage of that community surrounding an issue like this, the only place you can really look to, number one spot, has to be The Last of Us. The Last of Us really just... That was a game, The Last of Us 2 specifically, that was a game that made all of the reactionaries in the gaming community lose their shit. And that was a game that I would argue probably did more than any game in a long time, possibly since The Last of Us 1, to legitimize video games' ability to tell a very compelling story. And they got really fucking pissed off about it, which I thought was ironic because these same people will complain about how oppressed gamers and gaming as an industry is, despite it being literally the most high-earning entertainment industry, period. Putting all of that aside, I think it's funny how quickly these people were willing to completely flip on their positions. Just completely fucking flip. From go make your own games if you want to make them woke, to now, where we see them nowadays, endlessly shitting on and even arguing for the banning and the cultural, I guess, destruction, arguably, of any media that includes these elements. Back in the day, it was them complaining that people were complaining that there weren't enough people of color, gay, trans, etc. characters in media. Now, it's those same people complaining that there are too many. I worry that the wording of that might have confused things. It's those same people who were arguing against the inclusion in the first place, saying that it was unrealistic, or that trying to force game developers or movie creators or whatever story developers of any kind to implement these woke elements, quote unquote, that would be harming the story. Now, come around to modern day, that's what they're complaining about. I think a good example of this is the way that Ben Shapiro, who is without a doubt one of the largest conservative commentators on the planet, how he's able to get away with engaging in arguably the same behavior that the quote-unquote SJWs back in 2016 would engage in. But because what he's complaining about is the gay agenda, then I guess he's based and it's okay. Attacking creators who are just making stories is okay if you're attacking the woke agenda, but otherwise, no, it's not okay. They're okay. I guess that's the moral system that conservatives operate on. Anyway, the reason we're here today is this tweet by Ben Shapiro. I felt like we needed to give a little bit of background into this because, of course, this tweet proceeded to get 11,000 likes and received quite a bit of support from, no doubt, many of the same content creators, public speakers, and viewers of that content that I mentioned earlier, who previously said if you want woke stuff in your media, then go make your own media. Well, here we go. This is a screenshot from the new Buzz Lightyear movie. Now, I don't really know much about it, but my understanding of this movie is that it's not part of the Toy Story story, I guess. It's the movie, it's about the character Buzz Lightyear that the toy in Toy Story Buzz Lightyear is based on. That is my understanding of the movie. And apparently one of the characters, like Buzz's sidekick, is a black lesbian woman who has a son. Oh boy, and it's fully depicted on screen, and you better believe Ben Shapiro got mad. You better believe our boy Benny got mad. Let's go ahead and read what he had to say. I'm gonna try to read it in his voice. Disney works to put... Okay, that's too much. Disney works to push a not at all secret gay agenda, and seeks to add queerness, quote unquote, to its programming. According to executive producer Leota Revenio, parents should keep that in mind before deciding whether to take their kids to see Lightyear, which hits theaters this week. Children are not adults. What may be appropriate for adults is not appropriate for children. That this must be said demonstrates that our society is in a state of moral collapse. God damn. Like, only Ben Shapiro can take this image of two mothers smiling at each other in a Disney movie while holding their toddler son and bring it to our society is in a state of moral collapse. 11,000 likes in this tweet, by the way. No smiling allowed! Look at the reply tweet below it. Oh, of course. This is an image of two adults smiling at each other is the top fucking reply. I'm glad it at least has fucking 18,000 likes. Thank God. He got ratioed. Regardless, though, the children are not adults. What may be appropriate for adults is not appropriate for children thing. Let's go ahead and run through a few arguments here, because I know that this isn't what Ben Shapiro is arguing, but I know it's what people that aren't Ben Shapiro argue. And those people who aren't Ben Shapiro actually have some veneer of not being a bigot left. So yeah, we have to acknowledge the argument from this perspective. So a lot of people will make the argument that they have no problem with gay people, trans people, any LGBT group. What they have a problem with is their lifestyle, quote unquote, being exposed to children because it's quote unquote inappropriate. But other than that, they've got no problem with it. Now, if you have a modicum of critical thinking skills, you should be able to connect the dots and figure out that to claim that two women lovingly looking in each other's eyes and smiling while holding their child, to claim that that is somehow inappropriate and morally reprehensible for a child to see in a Disney movie, when if one of those two people was a man, it would not be, necessarily to hold that position, to hold the position that it would be morally wrong or inappropriate for a child to be exposed to two women holding their son, as opposed to a man and a woman holding their son in a Disney movie, necessarily implies that gay relationships are immoral. That exposing the children to gay relationships must be immoral because of some reason. Now, if you try to ask a conservative what the reason why it would be bad, like what it is, how it could be bad, how it could be harmful to a child, in what way could a kid be harmed by exposure to this, they will bring up a few different things. We kind of got like a little bit hinted at it here. The not at all secret gay agenda. What is this gay agenda? Well, Ben Shapiro isn't very far right. He's not very bought into the super crazy loony bin conservative demagoguery just yet. He's, still got a little bit of a mask he has to keep on. He still has like large public media outlets like Fox News bringing him on and stuff like that he needs to maintain a certain modicum of the mask in order to keep that going. However, people like Nick Fuentes or other Nazis and far-right figures, people who hold the positions that Ben Shapiro's political ideology literally just naturally lead to, if you follow them logically, they will all come out full on and admit what they believe. People like this genuinely seem to believe that a gay agenda is being pushed to reduce straight white birth rates and result in a larger boom in the population of non-white and Jewish people in America and in quote-unquote white Western European countries, perpetuating, guess what, the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. The same Great Replacement conspiracy theory that motivated the shooter back in the in that grocery store in New York State, I think it was. I forget where it was. I can't remember the town in New York State. That same shooter, the Christchurch shooter, the shooter in the arsonist. Yeah, the shooter in the shooter in El Paso, the arsonist in San Diego. I could go on listing more, but I don't think I need to list every single white neo-Nazi who's done violence or committed a mass murder in the name of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. It all leads back to the same shit. It always does. The alt-right rabbit hole never really went away. I talked about it, a while ago on my channel very often. It was like very much hip and cool to talk about the alt-right rabbit hole when it was back in 2019 to 2020, maybe a little bit in 2021, people were talking about it and it was this thing to talk about. But since then, it's not really anything that, anybody is discussing. But I'd argue that right now we're seeing it recur and have the effect it was having back in 2014 to 2017 again, quite strongly. I would argue that between 2019 and 2020, the right had kind of a little bit of a wedge put in as far as like influx of new people being introduced to their political ideology. I really do feel like more people probably joined the left than joined the right in 2019 to 2020, like here in America, especially if we're talking about young people online, which is like the demographic we're talking about here. Would you guys agree? I don't feel like that's the case anymore. I feel like that's already fully switched 180 starting 2022. Like the way things are going already, I definitely feel like the internet's starting to form that political lean ramp a little bit more to the right. As a pansexual, hearing those pans clank in the background is very exciting. Please continue. Thank you, Fembro. I'll let... Keep doing that. My chat is getting close. I don't think she got the joke, chat. Let me be clear. Ben Shapiro may be Jewish, and he may even be a Zionist. And I know that Nazis like to dog whistle anti-Zionism. What they really mean is being anti-Semitic, but you know, he may be like what you consider to be pretty in line with the modern like neocon conservative type. He is like pretty traditional with his lifestyle and his arguing, but his positions are very much neocon in nature. If you really look at what he believes in politically, he's not really anything all that new. He's convinced an entire generation of young Zoomer conservatives that he's this like new hip conservative type of some kind, but he really is no different than most conservative types that have come before him. Maybe a little bit more conservative and a little bit more tuned into the culture war shit, but like he's nothing new. He's not this like super hip cool guy for the Zoomers that he's peddled himself off to be. Do you consider Ben to be worse than John Doyle? Considering the other day I saw a video of John Doyle at a pride parade screaming at the police to start shooting the gay people in the head because that's their job, I'm going to say John Doyle's probably worse, though he doesn't have as many subs or as much of a following as Ben Shapiro on YouTube. To be clear, when those figures back in the day incessantly, and I mean incessantly complained about the liberal woke SJWs that were complaining about there not being enough progressive messaging or representation in media, those same people are now the ones harassing the creators of media, telling them to change the demographics and messaging of their content. It was never about creative freedom for artists. It was never about that shit. It was always about limiting the amount of exposure to marginalized people. This is where we come into the second part of why Ben Shapiro argues this and why a lot of conservatives argue this. It's not just the gay agenda part, it's also the exposure to kids. Chat, what is the number one factor that is almost guaranteed to make you not a bigot towards a certain group of people? I'm going to go ahead and say it because you already know, and it's just going to have to wait for you guys to type it out. Exposure. Any type of exposure generally leads to, you know, a reduction in bigotry towards that group, right? Generally, those that are the most racist tend to be those that have the least amount of exposure to people of different groups, right? And so if you start to incorporate non-white, non-straight, strong female characters, trans characters, gay, go down the list into media, that plays a big part. I think I believe it was, I don't know who it was some like lefty video essayist, but they'd cited like some survey that had come out or something like that, and it was about how like TV shows that feature, like sitcom shows that feature families that aren't just white, straight, like, you know, your general like conservative dream family, just watching shows like that significantly reduces the likelihood of holding like biases around certain groups that could be, you know, that could result in like, yeah, arguably Fresh Prince of Bel-Air did a decent amount to kind of quell racial tensions in this country. It's true. It probably did. I'm sorry. There's a reason why conservatives are so against there being black, gay, women, trans, etc. characters in media. It's because when white, cis, het, straight, whatever people watch media with characters that don't look like them and whatnot, that or meet people that don't look like them or live lives like them, they start to realize, oh wait, people who are different aren't really scary. It's not, oh cool, all right, and they tend not to be as bigoted. And a huge part of that is being exposed to diversity at a young age. If diversity is exposed to at a young age and it's not really a big deal, it's not really like, no one makes a big deal about it, no one's shit talking it, no one's like, that generally tends to lead to pretty positive outcomes, it seems. And that's what conservatives like Ben Shapiro want to prevent. They know that if a shit ton of kids go and watch Lightyear in theaters in a couple of weeks and see the lesbian couple with their kid, they're not going to have that moment where they're going to ask their parents, why does my classmate have two moms? And their parent gets to go on that on a homophobic tirade and tell them some like twisted version of what it is to be gay, which is what Ben Shapiro wants. It's always about how leave the teaching of that stuff up to the parents, which means let conservative parents tell them whatever they want so we can keep on perpetuating the downright batshit alternate reality conservatives live in for future generations. We got to preserve that alternate reality that they live in. They just won't preserve this one, the one we actually live in, you know, by implementing any type of policy that could help the environment. Luna, you're gonna screw up my entire streaming setup if you're back there. Come on, don't jiggle any wires loose. Oh God, she is. It's like watching a spy go through one of those like laser things, like a laser field. There we go. Good girl. Final point is that diversity and exposure to diversity is good. Conservatives want to fight it because it directly leads to an outcome of a more positive, more accepting, and less hostile to outside, cultures and whatnot society, which is what conservatives want to avoid. They're very much nationalist. They want to preserve that, very, very stereotypical American fear of especially like the East. They like conservatives really bank a lot on preserving the stereotypical American fear of countries like China, North Korea, and Russia. You know, a lot of it is Red Scare propaganda, a lot of it is xenophobia, and a lot of it is racism. Now, admittedly, there's plenty to be scared about when it comes to China, North Korea, and Russia, but let's just say the right tends to focus on literally all of the wrong things and then praise all of the, and they praise all of the bad shit they do. With all that said, Ben Shapiro is a fucking joke. There is no gay agenda. There is not... The closest thing to a gay agenda that is happening is that gay people want to live their lives and be happy and do their own thing, and some of them might happen to exist in media, especially if some of them end up creating the media that you enjoy. That might result in some gay characters, trans, black, women, sometimes even women. I know. The worst minority of them all. Might even be women in the media too. I know it's tough, but I promise you, if you just watch it and enjoy it, and you try to look past the fact that there's a few characters in there that don't look exactly like you, you might find that you enjoy it more. You really might. You might find that. With all that said, if you enjoyed this segment, please consider leaving a like. It's a very easy, simple, and fast way to support the stream, my channel, and my content in general. Of course, if you want to support me more directly and a little more substantially, you can do so quite easily simply by subscribing, gifting a sub, or even donating on my website, xanderhall.com/live. As you can probably hear, my microphone is pretty scuffed, and I'm trying very, very hard to save up for a new microphone to get our audio fixed over on YouTube, so any donations that you send my way will very much be appreciated, and a good amount of them will go to saving up for that new microphone. You can also follow my social media, all linked down below in the description. And of course, if you want to support me more substantially, you can donate to me on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, and Patreon. All that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.